Now, I mentioned on the last slide that you want to try to minimize your use of ViewState where you're not really taking advantage of it. What I want to point out in this slide is an example of where you really do want to leave it on because it's fundamental in the behavior of your page to actually working the way you expect. And this is related to change notification events in server-side controls in ASP.NET. And change notification events are in things like the text box control and the drop-down list. And what you get is you receive a notification whenever the contents of that control has changed between postbacks to the same page. And the reason it's important to leave ViewState on for those controls is the detection of the change notification is actually managed through ViewState because they keep track of the prior value that was selected in ViewState to decide whether to issue the change notification event. So let me show you a concrete example of this and how it can sort of break the page unexpectedly if you're not looking for it. So let's do change notification.aspx. And what I'm going to do is drop in a drop-down list here. And I'm going to add some values to it. So let's add just 3 values and set the values to item 1, item 2, and item 3. And then what I'm going to do is add a server-side change notification event for this drop-down list. So every time we get a post back, if the previous value of this drop-down is different from the current value, it should fire this change notification event. So here's my change notification event, and just to print that information out, let's put a label down here, and we'll set the label text whenever this event fires. So we're going to say label1.text equals you selected, and we'll print out the drop-down list 1.selected value. So whatever is currently selected. Okay, so we'll do that. And then let's go ahead and put a button on the form to generate a post back. So that will give us the chance to change the value and then submit the form. You could actually set the auto post back property on this control directly, which would inject a little JavaScript to initiate a post back every time you change the event. But I want to show you this sort of subtle behavior before we venture further. So let's just try running with ViewState enabled so we see that everything works as expected. Okay, so I'm in item 1, I go to item 2, it says, hey, you selected item 2. Let's go down here, item 3, you selected 3, let's go back to 1, you selected 1, okay, great. Looks like what we expect. And again, this label is being changed only when the server-side notification event is fired. So if I click on it right now, the server-side event wasn't fired, but this label just kept its previous value in ViewState, so it works regardless. Okay, so let's go and disable ViewState on this control now. So enable ViewState equals false on the drop-down list. And what I want to show you is a subtle behavior. So let's go ahead and switch to item 2, click on the server-side post back, and we get the change notification. Okay, good. Now let's go back and select item 1 and click on the button, and if it is behaving as it should, this should go back to item 1 just like it did before, right? We click on it, notice it did not go back to item 1. So this is an example of one of the subtle behaviors you can run into if you sort of blindly disable ViewState on your page. And the subtle behavior we are running into here is this drop-down list doesn't use ViewState to keep the current selected item because that's actually part of the post body already as it's an input element, but rather it uses it to store the previous value. And if you turn off ViewState, what it will do is simply default the previous value to the first item in the list. So again, watch this behavior. If I go select item 1 and click it, I get no notification because it assumed the previous value was item 1 because it just defaulted to the first value in the list. If I go to item 3 and click it, notice it does drop me to item 3, and the reason for that is we got back to the server and it changed from item, the currently selected item was 3, and that was different from the prior item which had defaulted to the first item, 0. So subtle issues in your selection logic if you're not careful. So my general rule of thumb is anytime you're adding change notification event handlers like we have here, the selected index changed event, be careful not to disable ViewState on that control because it can lead to issues like the one that we saw here. So, and also an item like this probably is not going to have much ViewState in general, so I would focus more on controls that have larger amounts of ViewState when you're doing your optimization, and that will keep you in safer territory.